Amy, thank you so much for agreeing to take part in our Great Minds series. We're absolutely delighted to have you participate. Can you start off by telling our viewers a bit about the Marriott Group, perhaps a bit about your operations and your global history?
Well, Marriott actually our founder was J. Willard Marriott, and on the day of his wedding in 1927, he started out cross-country with his wife Alice, and they ended up in Washington, D.C. in the summer, and he had this idea that we needed cold drinks, that he should be selling cold drinks, so he started a root beer stand, 14-seat root beer stand in 1927, and when it got to the winter and it was cold, nobody wanted root beer anymore, so he had this idea to start a hot food restaurant, and he called it Hot Shops, and it grew into a chain. And then he noticed one of the Hot Shops restaurant was right near Dulles Airport, and he noticed that people were coming from the plane before the planes, coming into the restaurant for food before they got on the plane. So he went to the head of the airlines and he said, "We'll supply the food for the planes." So Marriott actually started the first in-flight catering business. And then we expanded into hotels in 1957 with our first full-service Marriott Hotel in Twin Bridges. And then in '83 we started the first select service, what's now called select service brand, for business travelers called Courtyard. And then from there expanded. We're now over 4,000 hotels and 78 countries and territories, and 18 brands, including luxury brands like Bulgari and Ritz-Carlton and JW Marriott, core brands like Marriott and Residence Inn and Courtyard, and then lifestyle brands like Edition and Renaissance and our newest brand, Moxie.
Amy, what are some of the key challenges facing the global hospitality sector at the moment, and how do you envisage the sector responding to these challenges?
I think starting with the challenges is opportunities, right? The consumer, just the evolution of the consumer. You know, Gen X and Gen Y will represent 2/3 of the working population by 2020, and our research shows that they act very differently than the boomers, and that they really want to combine work and play. They're much more interested in the design and the style of the hotel, and then they're completely enabled by technology. So we have to do things like mobile check-in, we have to do things like changing the way that we engage with them in our marketing. And then coupled with the digital revolution, we have to do things like changing the way we get feedback and we speak and have more interactive dialogue with our consumers. And so one thing we did, for example, last year was we launched a whole new guest satisfaction system that we call Guest Voice. And so what we do is now we get real-time feedback from consumers online, coupled with scraping social media sites. And so the hotel and the general manager and the team gets much more 360-degree feedback, and then they can respond much quicker and act on feedback, both positive and negative. And so that's something that we're doing to respond to that. I think the other big challenge, I mean, sitting in Europe, right, is the geopolitical environment. And so for the hospitality industry, those things that come up, like terror attacks and things like that, very much impact our industry. If you look at what happened in New York with 9/11, our hotel occupancy in New York went down to 8% after that. And so with what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine, and what started with the crisis in Greece, back when I started in this role in 2010, we're constantly monitoring the economic and the political environment to make sure that we're responding appropriately to some of these threats.
What role does innovation play within Marriott Hotels, and perhaps can you give us an example of where this takes place?
Well, innovation is fundamental to your success in business, I think, and for us it's no different. We've been very focused on innovation that is harder to replicate. When people talk about innovation in the hospitality industry, they immediately go to the product and service enhancements. So a new room, a new guest chair, enhancements in the lobby, or a new meeting room configuration. We believe those are important, but that more important, we want sustainable improvements that get sustainable competitive advantage. And so we've spent a lot of time on innovation related to our business model. Coming up with a global portfolio of brands, multiple price points, and impacting different consumer segments that are attracted to different things in a hotel, product and service related. So a lot on the business model related to that, creating that portfolio of brands, and then being the first company in the industry to go to asset light. Basically selling off the real estate and focusing more on managing and franchising, because that's the core competency. And then the other big part of innovation that we've done is really focused on our sales and marketing engines and the things that really drive our revenue competitive advantage and our market share premium over our competitors. And so things like our Marriott Rewards program, you know, we have 45 million members today. It's the longest running loyalty program in the industry. And it is so effective because we continue to innovate in that space. We've found that our Marriott Rewards customers are a third more valuable than our other customers. They'll drive 20 minutes out of their way to find one of our hotels. They pay higher prices, and they go directly either through our website or through our lower cost channels. So we continue to innovate in the Marriott Rewards space. And revenue management. You know, we were the first company to introduce the concept of revenue management to the hospitality industry from the airlines. And so created the first yield system back in the early 80s. And that yield system today is so much more sophisticated in terms of forecasting demand, both for transient business and group business, which is so important in terms of setting the right price points and monitoring competitor rates at the same time and making recommendations to the hotel that are real time and important. So those are some of the innovations.
I think it's fair to say that new marketing strategies are absolutely essential for a company to remain its competitive advantage. But focusing perhaps on marketing technologies, can you give us an example of where you have used new marketing technologies for business growth?
Well, we use both. We use new and we use traditional, particularly outside the U.S. In markets where we don't have as much brand awareness and aren't as well known. We'll do things where we know there's a lot of business travelers, like the airports, like Heathrow, like Frankfurt, and we'll do things like wrap the passenger trains that take you from terminal to terminal with promotions and programs, and then also make it interactive to you, for example, to join Marriott Rewards along the way. But in terms of new media, we try a lot of different things. We have something called mobile geo marketing, where we're targeting people that we're looking at the most popular applications for people going to restaurants in a local area around our hotels. And we're looking at when they're doing that and the peak times for when they're doing that. And then the hotel can do an appropriate offer for mobile users for restaurants, you know, try to attract them away from the local restaurants into our restaurant because they know what they really like and what their affinity is towards. And it's driven a lot of business for our restaurants and our bars. Another thing that we do is we'll partner with people like Facebook to try to drive awareness and trial. We've partnered when we see somebody has switched their status from single to engaged. We generate a wedding promotion and we send them something online. And what's interesting is we create a lot of buzz with it, but we also create a lot of business for our hotels in terms of weddings, banquets, and catering. So those are just a couple of things we do.
Amy, what role does customer insights play within driving marketing decisions? So, for example, we know that big data is very prevalent at the moment. Yeah. Can you give us an example of where you use customer insights with concepts such as big data?
Really, really important for businesses to have so much more data, structured and unstructured. The key is to make sense out of it and to do it in a quick and effective way. One of the things we've done with Marriott.com is it's become a bigger and bigger, not just booking tool, but marketing tool and creating an experience at different touch points of a customer's journey is create digital sensors and tracking tags. So we can look on the internet as people are researching their stay, the entire experience around their stay, and then ultimately at the point of booking, we're able to then interject ourselves at the appropriate times to engage the customer and not overwhelm them, but just be more targeted in terms of what information we give them, whether it's an offer or whether just helpful advice. So it's really important to have that data to do that.
So it sounds like analytical skills within the workforce is very important, especially people within marketing.
Yeah. I came from finance. And I ended up running our sales and marketing organization. And so having analytical background, I think, is so helpful in that regard.
Amy, now let's move on the conversation towards education. What role does higher education providers play in terms of delivering future talent for the sector?
I got my MBA at William & Mary in the U.S. and what they did is they spent a lot of time on what are considered softer skills, but to me, the most important skills in terms of differentiating yourself as a leader in business, and that's being able to communicate effectively, both verbally and in writing, being able to influence with how you collaborate with people, having high emotional intelligence, particularly in business and in my world where you're dealing with a lot of people from different cultures. Nonverbal cues, being able to pick up on them, react to them. I think that's what I think higher education can do, is really focus on those things that make you so much more effective, personable, person that somebody gravitates to and wants to work with.
Technology and e-learning are driving education nowadays. Do you think businesses can benefit from this?
Oh, for us it's really fundamental because the hotel business is 24/7. So you have to give people online access to learning tools so that they can do it when they can do it. So we have a number of different approaches that we have. We have a skills library that has hundreds of 10 to 20 minute learning segments where you can go on and learn about business strategy or operations or consumer research. And that's really helpful for people to call upon it when they need it. We do something called the Career Zone, where once people have started with Marriott and started in an entry-level job, or really in any job, they can look online at different paths their current job could put them in, and the skills that they might need to do to get that next position on that path that they want. And so that's really been something that the associates have embraced. And then most recently, we launched something called JAM. We do a lot of change management projects and transformational projects to do some of the innovation that we do, and it involves cross-functional project teams. And what the JAM tool does is allows them to collaborate online and create a community, not just for the people that are on the project team of one project, but across projects and across the world. So that's something that's been pretty exciting that we just did.
We always tell our students that one's own values need to be matched to the values of the organization that they apply for. What role does values play at Marriott? And how are these values impacted upon your customers?
Oh, our core values are so institutionalized in everything that we do and in every leader. It starts with putting people first. We call our employees associates because we think they're partners. And so our founder said, if you take care of the associates, they'll take care of the customer and the customers will come back. And so putting people first is fundamental, as well as success is never final. At Marriott, it's all about pursuing excellence, embracing change, acting with integrity. And because so many of our hotels are the lifeblood of the community that they're in, they're the place where people congregate, both in good times and in bad, serve our world.
I think it's fair to say that the dichotomy around if leadership can be taught or if it's something intrinsic is still very much valid to this day. Mm-hmm. What kind of leader are you, Amy? And more importantly, what do you look for in potential leaders?
I think most people would say I'm a change agent. I love a challenge, and I've run many transformational projects for Marriott, including this job where I had to consolidate 2 former regions into a brand new division, our first decentralized division outside the U.S. And any success I've had is because I've surrounded myself with the best people. Mm-hmm. So I think that's so important to a leader. A successful leader is, for me, it's really smart people that aren't like me, that bring something different to the table, that through experience, through culture, through different perspective, whatever it is. And then with that team, creating a vision for where we want to go, making sure everyone buys in, supporting them, empowering them, and then holding them accountable for results. And so to me, that's all leadership. And then the qualities I look for in a leader are first and foremost integrity, someone that's going to do good in their role, and highly self-motivated, somebody that embraces change, somebody that's very collaborative, somebody that has the emotional IQ to read rooms and read situations, because business can be so gray, and interactions with people can be very, very different, and a lot is unsaid, and so an ability to read that and read it quickly, and then somebody that understands how to make a good decision and a quick decision at the right time.
Why would graduates want to enter the hospitality sector? What is it about the sector that is fascinating?
People never really understand what the hospitality business is until they get into it, and then they never leave, because it is probably the most interesting and complex industry you'll ever be in. It exposes you to the world. So if you want to be in hospitality, you got to love travel and have a passion for travel and want to experience the world in completely different ways. I think liking people is pretty fundamental to being in the hospitality business, and somebody that also understands technology very well, because it's shaping how this business evolves and how we interact and engage our customers and deal with our people.
Amy, thank you so much. On behalf of everyone at the London School of Business and Finance and Global University Systems, thank you.
Thank you, Nadim. It was a pleasure. Great pleasure. Thank you.